like the big entity nationwide, a very, very stringent testing process. And that is the one that we're recognizing Matt for in particular, where he scored the 190 points out of a possible 200 points. And he has worked very hard. Doris has worked very hard to get to that point. So I wanted to recognize Matt tonight. Mayor Morris and I were visiting about it and both agreed that it would be important to recognize not only just this most recent victory for him, but all the hard work Matt's put into it so far. Been a very active unit. Just the other morning, interdicted a suspicious person. Our storage units here in town recovered 31 grams of methamphetamine and seized $700 of illicit cash from drug dealing. The person was charged with drug dealing, tax stamp violations, multiple other charges. Also had felony warrants out for their arrest. And so Matt and Doris were the officers that made that arrest as well. So just been doing a really great job, and I want to publicly recognize them for it.
What do you think? Harry will have about the dog. I think it's awesome. Thank you. So, Matt, I know it's not as nice trophy as you got. I do have a certificate of achievement for you and you, Doris, that says that you achieved second place in the USPCA 2019 Narcotic Detection Trial.
All right, so thank you very much.
Good job, man. Appreciate all you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
You bet. There you go.
Yeah, just a couple things I wanted to say is thanks for the support. Without city government that supports our K-9 program, we're not going to be where we're at. And then that goes down, obviously, from you guys to the chief of police and the lieutenant SIP. Neither one of them have ever handled a leash, but there's a delineator that they're able to differentiate and be able to lead our program, even though they've never been dog handlers. They come to me with things, have ideas, and we're able to form our program to where it's at. And it's obviously going to continue. The training is going to continue. I've been training for the last 6 months. That's going to continue on for throughout the life of the dog. And as long as we do that, we're going to be able to build. This is a great achievement for us, but I think we can do a lot more. And so the support of you guys, we definitely appreciate it. And then my wife and family, obviously I'm gone a lot, and every single day I'm out working with him, so that takes time away from my family and stuff like that. But they're 100% on board. He's just a part of our family as well, so he does well with our family and kids, and so it's awesome. So I appreciate everything you guys have done with the support, and look forward to continuing on and making this the best team possible. And once he's done, to continue the K-9 program. So it's been very successful so far, so thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Go ahead, Ron.
I think we need to keep shining the spotlight. You just proved what I wanted to say, which is you're going to do everything you can to say us and defer to everybody. But what you've done is it's been great to see that the program go from an idea to what it is now, and this is tremendous. So kudos to you. And I know that means people around you, but don't defer on everything, because
I just hold a leash, man. There's no problem solving that.
That's not true, and you do. I mean, the training that you put in to get there, it's almost movie worthy. And so, if we get to extent, I don't know who would play you. I would suggest Ashton Kutcher. Danny DeVito for Mayor. No, but I mean, it's what you've done over the last year. I mean, year and a half. When did the idea for this start?
February of last year, we started fundraising.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was prior.
I mean, to score like this, like you said, new team on something that you thought maybe was a possibility. Just it's tremendous, the work that you've done. Very proud of you and the department.
There's tenured teams that show up to these trials and fail. I mean, it's not a deal where everybody shows up and you pass. So it's a very stringent set of trials they go through, and to score that well is phenomenal. And I actually have emails from other K-9 supervisors from Boyne PD and from other agencies that were there that were judges, praising Matt and Doris about how well they first succeeded.
Good job, dude.
Ron, Ron, you have something there?
I just want to say thank you and express how fortunate we are as a city to have an officer like you who would step forward and take on this responsibility. I see it as a huge responsibility, and you're making the most of it, and it's definitely beneficial to the city. So thank you.
Yes, and I also want to say, yes, there's citywide, there's great support behind this, but it's your personal commitment and support that really has made this what it is. So thank you very much.
Yeah, take the credit. He's your partner. He's a weapon. He is just like your piece. You know when to use him, and it's your responsibility. take second place and enjoy it, and go back next year and get first.
Yeah, we will.
So, congratulations.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and an extra special thank you to your wife, Pam. Because I know that they put up with a lot with that too, and that means a lot that they're able to do that for us.
Yep.
Yep, good job.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next item on the agenda is public comments. This is time and place for comments for any item other than those in a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to address the council? Hearing none, seeing none, moving on to next item, consent agenda. I would take a motion. Second. Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Sarchet.
Motion carries. Next item is new business. Under new business, action item 1, consider motion to approve resolution 2019-20 approving PUD master plan Ridgeview Plat 2. Who's the lucky one?
I am.
I knew you were.
Thank you. I'm Jerry Oliver, and I'm with Civil Engineering Consultants, 2486th Street in Des Moines. And I'm here with Amy Stout with Knapp Properties. We're representing the applicant and the property owner. I wish I had my own Edoris for a couple of compliments. I've been to them very interesting.
You don't mean here though, do you?
No, I'm not talking about Polk City.
Give us time.
Give us. This is a 20-acre parcel that lies on the west side of Park Boulevard. It's north of the existing Ridgeview Plat 1 and south of the Neil Smith Trail, which goes through on the north and west side. This is currently zoned PUD. But as a part of the PUD, it does require a master plan. This originally had a master plan back in 1986, but since that's so old, it's been abandoned. And what you have before you is the new PUD for which we are, PUD master plan, which we're asking approval. It shows the extension of 2 existing streets that now stub in on the south line of our property. The westerly street is extended through the property and then exits on the Parker Boulevard. The easterly street terminates in a cul-de-sac. And this is slightly different than maybe some of the previous master plans that you've seen. The benefit of this is that it's quite a bit fewer lineal feet of street. And hence, I think part of our mission is try to save as many trees as we can on this property. So we propose larger lots that have extended deep rear yards. And we're anticipating these streets would essentially follow the existing contours of the ground, so that we're trying to keep the grading to a minimum street width, plus perhaps the building setback line. As a part of this, we're also showing proposed landscaping along Parker Boulevard, which would be in a buffer area. Likewise, we're showing a connection to the bike path at this location. And perhaps the most amazing part of this is that there are little outlots, excuse me, along the south property line. And these outlots are being deeded to the adjacent property owners. There are 7 of them that back up to this property. We've had a number of meetings with the adjacent property owners. They've exhibited a desire to purchase additional footage to add to their rear yards so that they themselves can protect their view and the trees within those outlots. I'll tell you, I've been at this for 40 some odd years, and this is quite an amazing accomplishment. I've never seen this done in other developments. Usually when you have adjacent property owners, unfortunately, many of them think that nothing will ever happen behind their houses. They don't think there will ever be development, even though they don't own the property themselves. But in this particular case, these group of property owners indicated an interest in acquiring additional ground so that they could add to their rear yards. And in this case, the developer agreed. So we're here before you to ask for approval of the master plan, and I'd be happy to.
Kathleen, you got anything to add to anything?
I don't know.
I was gonna call on Jared, yeah, I was gonna see if Jared had anything he wanted to add too. Do you
Yeah,
have
I mean,
anything?
they did go to P&Z
Yep.
and received in January, P&Z asked them to kind of talk to the neighbors as
Yep.
one of the concerns they'd had. They also want to make sure that the bike path connected it to the street and the opposite side of the street, and that change has been made. There were some questions about the location of the street connection, but those were addressed, and it is per CDOT. So really, they've addressed staff's issues and did receive a positive recommendation from P&Z last Monday night.
Jared, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'm just here.
Can
in
you
support.
just put your name and address for the record?
Jared Foss, 1520 Seagrass.
Thank you.
And I'm just here in support. I'm here on behalf of the 7 property owners, and kind of echo what Jerry said. We can't thank them enough, and that Properties for meeting with us on multiple occasions. Ultimately coming up with something that really works for all of us. So definitely support this plan.
Thank you. Appreciate your time and input on all that. You guys have anything up here? Questions for Jerry or anybody? Ron, go ahead.
Have you marked any of those trees that you're gonna try and save yet?
Actually, we'll be back before you with the preliminary plat. And on that preliminary plat, we will be identifying clearing limits on the drawing as well as on the construction plan. So, no, we have not been out there and actually flagged trees, but we will get to that in the next phase.
So that was gonna be one of the questions. I suggest, and it is only a suggestion, that we do have somebody in town that's done this before, may or may not be interested in helping process it, and can provide that contact information.
Well,
Yeah.
Talk about. All right, yeah. Not your first of all. So first, I want to thank you and Jared and the group that came. I do appreciate, and I don't want to lose sight of this, the talking to the neighbors that you have. I don't want to tailor the concerns to one neighborhood, and I also don't want to overreact, even though we are going to hear from the people that you alluded to earlier that think that nothing was ever going to be there, and we'll have to deal with that. That's fine. But any other neighborhood groups that heard from that changed it from the January meeting at P&Z to this now? Was it just the outlots that changed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the neighbors not coming. I live almost due east of that, over about 3 blocks, and my backyard was the city limits when I moved here. And so I understand what you're saying, and nobody anticipates it or likes it, but it's the fact that we're growing as a city. It's just that we have to preserve as much of it as we can and keep things headed in the right direction. And I think it's great that you've worked with those neighbors and made that happen, but I've heard too many times, we're going to save as many trees as we can. And when it gets all done, well, we couldn't save. So I would like to see that ahead of time, starting right now.
So the other thing I'll just bring up, and one of the reasons in addition to sending it back to talk to the neighbors, which you're right, 40 years, not only does it not happen, but usually it doesn't result in a change, and usually it's not a change to this degree. Another concern that was raised was the connection from Washington being a new intersection to what is now, what's the new road?
Well, are you talking about this connection?
Well,
this is Washington currently.
yeah, and then what's the name of the new road that's connected?
This is Pelican.
Pelican. Okay, so instead of aligning Washington and Pelican, they're separate, which therefore creates another entry point to Parker. And the valid example was raised, which I don't think applies directly here, in other communities where you do that once and it's fine, and twice it's maybe not so bad, but the 7th, 8th time it begins to cause a problem. So, again, I don't think that we have the opportunity to make that mistake here. It's not ideal, but it does benefit us in terms of what I would consider to be a benefit anyway, less lots, deep lots, which has the opportunity to save as much current topographically as we can. So I appreciated the process that it went through, both from P&Z raising some valid concerns, the neighbors being aware enough to come now rather than complaining after the fact. And so it's, again, this is private property. It's zoned what it's zoned to be, and the fact that it had been trees that people like looking at. It doesn't, not a perfect world. I don't like to have a bunch of trees around us, but I think this is probably as good of a reasonable development option as well.
Do you have an average lot width? What is the average?
The minimum would be 65. They would go up to 70 plus.
And how many lots are there total?
We're showing 50 on this plan.
Well, I asked this question of everybody then, and I don't know, maybe you don't have the answer, but what if that was still R1 and it was put on, how many lots would there?
Well, I guess to answer part of that, the old PUD, I think, had 62 units on it. That was approved a bazillion years ago.
I don't think it was approved. I don't think.
In 1986,
Okay.
that plan was approved. It had some townhomes in it as well.
So to your point, that it's not apples to apples, but I think there could be more here than were originally designed. Whether it was approved or not, but
Well, I just, in my mind, too many times PUD zoning is used to increase density. And originally, when that ordinance was adopted, it was to preserve green space and make the development fit the contours of the land. And it's pretty obvious now we're not doing it anymore. We're making the land fit the development. Does that make any sense to you? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think that really applies to this project.
Okay. You guys did Bridgeview 1, didn't you, the first one?
I did not, no.
You didn't? Oh, well, I
That was not
apologize.
an app development.
Pardon?
That wasn't an app development.
Because they sure did change the land.
The only reason we're calling it Bridgeview is we didn't have a come up with it.
Oh, no, I think that's fine. I don't care what you got.
So, I mean, but it isn't tied into that in any way, shape, other than we matched up our street.
But you are right, Ron, that I would agree with you. In the past, PUD has been used to not the best benefit, or for the intended purpose, maybe is a better way to say it. But yeah, I think that, given the size here, again, I'm advocating for this, but I haven't seen the discussion. Wading cautiously into those waters is good counsel. I tend to agree that they could, even if it was R1, do a lot more lots theoretically. It's hard to say depending on how many,
yes.
where the roads go,
I mean,
but
yeah, it's a fact. If you want to try to maximize it, you would not have the deep lots. You would have more street, which would be more clearing, more sewer, more maintenance, etc. And in this case, it just doesn't seem like that's the reason thing to do. I mean, buyers also want trees. And so if they lose the developer to try to keep as many as they can, but obviously, a number will go. That just has to be developed these properties.
To your point, I think having a bigger lot, that's very attractive. That's just going to bring different variety of people and families that are looking for that. And I don't know, we don't necessarily have that available. So to both points of this positive and negative, I think the positive here is, I don't see a whole bunch of negative, but the positive is it's a bigger lot, nice opportunity for others to come into Polk City and have that.
Well, and to that point, I've said it many, many times, I don't have a problem with 65-foot frontage. I never have, because I've lived on one for 50 years. But I don't have a problem with that, but I do have a problem with going in and taking out all the trees and changing the land completely. But if that's not what your intentions are, then It'll be a lot better.
That would be to our disadvantage to do that.
Well, and
I appreciate that.
I was just going to make a comment regarding the trees, that just keeping in mind that in March of last year, the council did adopt a new tree ordinance. And, you know, that is part of the comments that were in there that went to P&Z. You know, it's very specific on some of that, not only what's taken out but what's put back. And so I think that's an important thing to note. You know, again, I think a common misconception in town when it comes down to that is that we don't care, and we do. And so we've got a new tree ordinance to back all that up. Jeff?
Well, I was just going to commend you between the 2014 layout versus this layout. You shortened yourself a couple lots, but you also did a great job reducing street length. I think the deeper lots, especially backing to Parker, will be a very nice thing to have for the homeowners as well as just the residents in town who will also have screening from backyards. That's a very nice thing to have. So you did a good job. And looking at the contours here, you're looking at that knuckled street. It looks like you worked it in pretty well, so there should be pretty minimal grading, especially when you get into the sewer. Good job. But also a good job to work with the neighbors to help them out. That was a great opportunity for the neighbors as well as for the developer to come to an agreement.
Yeah, it was a win-win.
So Jason's point is a good one to bring up too, and that just as not to delay this, just a more macro level than the individual development here, but I would say to the extent that we have as a city an ability to save as much vegetation, trees, whatever, we're doing that, and part of that is because we've heard that that's what the existing residents want. Now, it's not going to matter that your other point that some will come down, and we will hear from some folks about that, and that comes with the territory. But you know, with the tree adjustment, with the options that you have, and again, even going back to another important thing that I think, even contradicting myself earlier, the earlier proposal that abuts to Washington is right next to the bike trail, and then curves to the wraps around to the south.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's ideal to have a road and a bike trail come. So again, it would be nice to have one less entry point, but is it worth the potential of that road and bike intersection? So
Does anybody else have anything else? I got one more comment on. Anybody have anything else? I do also appreciate NAP's willingness, you know, as far as developers go. Always happy to work with NAP. You guys have done good projects in Polk City. I think we would agree with that. There is another comment that was in here as far as in some of the comments that were in here regarding parkland dedication, which I'll call your attention to, and I think it's important because some of that is through conversations that we've had with NAP and regarding where parkland dedication will be versus, you know, from the trail or from some future development that we're going to have going on. And so I appreciate the willingness to be creative on that, because that will benefit other areas of town, not just this one single development.
So just finally, one thing I forgot to, as you earlier mentioned, there'll be a preliminary plat. So anybody that might be watching this and not here for that matter and wants to weigh in on pluses or minuses, I'd like to hear that too. So just out there, it's not done yet.
Take a motion, please.
So move. Second.
Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Sarchet.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Item 2, consider motion to approve resolution 2019-14 approving service agreements with Keltec for a 48-month term, including vehicle lease, the annual amount of $10,982.83, and hardware services, then the annual amount of $6,251.32, beginning July 1st, 2019. Chief.
So this will be for our normally scheduled patrol car replacement. It was in the budget that was approved. This will be our second go around with a lease where we lease the entire vehicle and all the equipment and pay for a service contract with Keltec to maintain everything. I will add really quickly, they sell Panasonic products, which are great. I've had 12 or 13 years experience using Panasonic laptops and camera systems, patrol cars. We have an issue from Panasonic manufacturer's issue, and Ryan from Keltec's here as well. Panasonic most of the time, 99% of the time, is a great product. We had 2 of our new tablets with a problem they couldn't figure out. Keltec immediately came over with new tablets. Our downtime was minimal. That's part of this, at no cost, no additional cost, these agreements. And we get prioritization as they call it a FOSS, fleet as a service, is the acronym for it. We get priority service. They dispatch somebody from Baxter immediately to keep our patrol cars up and running. Took the other computers and figured out what the problem was. This is a little more expensive. We bought everything a la carte, and I kind of general contracted the car get put together, and we bought a car. But if we'd had that issue with Panasonic, we would have taken them, box them up ourselves, mail them off, be down while waiting for those computers to come back. And it's a rare occurrence. But Keltec, I just wanted to brag a little bit. They really stepped up and really took great care of us. As to the point in the end, they gave us 2 brand new, the top of the line tablets, and just replaced the ones we're having issues with. Working with Panasonic on that, and Kelly, the owner of Keltec, actually strong-armed the head tech guy out of the east, or no, he's out of Florida. Sorry, out of Florida. He had them come here to figure out our problem, and then came and met with me and personally apologized to me and asked for my feedback to better prepare for things like that in the future. So it's been just an overall highly productive experience with us since we started working with Keltec. They retrofitted 2 cars. If you guys remember, we started leasing that equipment last summer. My replacement Chiefs car is a full vehicle lease through them, and this would be just replacing. Actually, it's not an addition to the fleet because we lost the K9 vehicle for patrol because that's Matt's take-home car. So what we would do is we would move our Taurus that we're using. That would become a spare car for Four Seasons Festival and things like that. Just an extra car when we need an extra vehicle for people driving training, things like that. So we go back to what our fleet was initially when I first started.
Questions, Trace?
See, Jim, he's not all bad.
And you and I spoke, but since you're here, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I did work with Kelly when he first kind of got off and going. And there's very few businesses that I would put in the high level of caliber that I do with Keltec. They're an excellent organization, top notch, and service second to none. So,
and my car's been phenomenal. The lease has been painless. These agreements are identical in language and intent to the ones previously approved. There's no major changes to them. And I've had phenomenal luck with my patrol car. And I don't want anybody to think about Panasonic. That was kind of a blip in the radar. The years we've used them, that was just more to showcase Keltec's commitment to honoring those service agreements. And that would have been a very expensive a la carte for us as well, paying for all that Keltec time to try to diagnose that problem where without a service agreement, you're on the hook for that.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Vogel? Yes. Walters?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes. Motion carries. Item 3, consider motion to approve resolution 2019-19 approving Snyder and Associates invoices for February 2019, amount of $9,423. Take a motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Vogel?
Yes.
Walters?
Abstain.
Anderson?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item under reports and particulars is a proclamation for National Library Week, April 7th through 13th. And I'll just read the last line like I always do. Now, therefore, I, Jason Morse, Mayor of Polk City, Iowa, do hereby proclaim the week of April 7th through 13th, 2019, National Library Week. I encourage all residents to visit the library this week and explore what's new and engage with your librarian. I would say the library is doing an excellent job. Yeah. See, they're doing a great job. Reports in particular is I'll call on staff first. Trey, you got something out, man. Busy night.
Based on multiple complaints we've had to the police department on junk vehicles sitting in people's yards and properties, I've been working with Mayor Morris on it, and we are beginning a junk car abatement process for this summer. We're going to make it a very citizen-friendly process where we will facilitate them getting in contact with people to donate their vehicle, and they can write them off as like tax write-offs. And we will work through that abatement process to the end. If there's people that refuse, then in the end we'll have to end up working with legal and getting court orders and getting vehicles impounded out of people's yards. But it'll all be based on our code, on the parameters of what a junk vehicle is defined in our city code. And it'll be, like I said, a citizen-friendly process. We'll have an open door policy if people with questions at the police department that want to come in and discuss their situation as well. But in the end, our main goal is to continue to keep our city beautiful, to keep their health hazards, kids play around these vehicles, nuisance animals take up residence in these. It's not just a nuisance as I don't like the way that looks. There can be some other serious issues with it as well. And it's I don't know if you've ever heard of the broken windows crime theory, but if you let areas start degrading by having junk vehicles, abandoned buildings, and then it never fails time after time that the crime rate will start to rise in those areas as well. We don't have that issue in Polk City right now, but I'd like to stay ahead of it. Make sure we don't get to that.
I think the important thing on that, Chief, that we talked about is this is a code that we have. This isn't anything
Right.
new. This is just a case of I know you and I spoke to this, and you kind of did a brief head count, if you will, in a couple areas, and I know I was shocked with the numbers you gave me. So I think that this isn't anything we're going to fix overnight, but I applaud your efforts on that.
It's been something on my radar for a long time. It's just prioritization of getting K9 units, some more important things that we needed operationally in the works, and we've gotten to the point where the citizen complaints have increased in this area too, with people that don't like it and they're adjacent and their neighbors are behind them.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the diligence here on staying on top of it. Fortunately, we are somewhat complaints driven just due to staffing on some areas, so I appreciate the responsiveness there. While you're talking, a lot of the same things that you described having been affected by junk cars, whatever the term is, this is probably more of a code enforcement. It's tough, but I thought of some things that I've heard about construction zones and we've heard as well. So if there's anything that we can do to make that easier, if it does escalate to your level or even to a lesser violation or citation, or, I've heard that lately. I think it's bad weather to do any construction with the moisture, but is what it is.
I do want to throw a caveat out there that I'm not trying to delve into code enforcement.
No.
With vehicles, we have the unique ability to run NCIC checks on the plate so we can figure out who owns it, is it registered? And also when it comes time, if somebody does push it to the end and we have to see someone's vehicle, we're versed in that process at the department as well. So that's why I want to take this on. And I'm not saying we won't help out any way we can, but when it gets into other code enforcement stuff, it's too much of a time suck. And my caveat is we won't really be able to move forward in actionable items with this until we get that seventh officer. And I do want you guys to know that's one of the first benefits of getting properly staffed and moving that way is we're able to start have a more comprehensive approach to public safety instead of just enforcement as well.
Yeah, I was comparing apples to
Yep.
oranges.
And we're happy to help with that stuff. I just wanted to make sure that I was as clear as our limitation.
And again, I appreciate your starting the process because that's where we just have to start.
And Jenny's been a great help already, just the process.
Just looking into it, yeah.
This third time we've gone through this since I've been on the council, and does it need to be done? Absolutely. Are there some problems around town? Absolutely. But everybody should know, in the end, it's going to cost us.
Yeah.
It has every other time.
Yeah, oh yeah, well.
But it's one of the things where it could be money well spent.
So, one of the things that Chief and I talked about on this, when we visited on this was, there are avenues out there that people can get rid of their cars for tax deduction.
Much easier to get rid of them.
That you can call these junk services that'll allow it to be cars for kids, whatever, the various programs that are out there. But the one thing he and I talked about was in the abatement letters or whatever that potentially are written is to give them options of how to get rid of these cars. Not just say your cars have to be gone, but to say we would be willing to work with you. And I know you even talked about talking to a couple of junkyards or whatever. So I think you're not just going in with a hard-nosed approach, but you're trying to help fix the problem.
Our goal is long-term, for years law enforcement is enforcement.
Right.
I believe there has to be enforcement when necessary, but I'm a big believer in the education and the working together on the front end of it. And then we're not doing this a fourth time. It's a continual betterment process where we educate. And then if we see one problem, we can approach that person and say, hey, here's the code. Here's what we've done in the past. We don't want to have to go down this road. We need to mitigate the issue.
I want to also echo that I think the one thing that was important was Chief bringing this up tonight, because there will be some letters that are going to go out at some point, and in case anybody gets called on it, I think that it's important. You guys are all aware of what's going on, and this isn't anything new. This is just enforcement of what we have. So,
Well timed. So we got the second most lethal dog in the
Yeah.
country. So keep complaining.
A couple places, you better take him.
yeah. Well said.
That we
Well
put on
said.
social media. It doesn't have to necessarily be on like Facebook, but maybe on our website.
You can work through.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
That's
the
a good
aspect
point.
of that is
That's
because
a good point.
they're kind of hit and they're only individual.
It's not a blanket.
It's not a blanket thing, yeah. And he's kind of got a plan to how to do that. Rob, one thing I want to mention, and Mike, chime in, but I do know that there were some issues with due to time of year construction and stuff. And I know Public Works did go up and work through it. Jenny, I know you guys were involved as well. So I do want to commend you guys for working. And Safe Buildings was involved as well to try and go through that and getting in touch with developers or builders as quickly as we could and get some of it developed. Some of it's just the time, right? And it's muddy, and understand that if you live in an area that's being developed, it's a little challenging from time to time, but staff did a great job and working.
And I should have been clearer, just because I heard about it doesn't mean anybody mishandled anything. Luckily, it happened when you were on vacation, so I'm sure it was. No, that's true. It's just one of those things that if people know that we're trying, again, it's like trees. Like, somebody wants to be a deadbeat and tear up, adjoining yards. That's, we can't police everything forever.
No, sir.
Nothing?
No, we're going to be very nice.
Excellent's good.
He's hungry.
I know, sure he is. Kathleen, anything tonight?
Not really. I guess we have the construction drawings that were submitted to Big Valley, so are going through the review process right now. So those are bring back for the first phase of that plat. So it's not the full plat. They are going to divide it at least 2 phases. So.
Mike, anything? Start down here and work my way back.
So the only thing, the MAC meeting in March is always at the Capitol. Forgot my sheet that has all the list of bills. There's probably not going to be anything, as it was right after the funnel, so there were a few related to TF that's kind of been bouncing back and forth a few years. I don't think they're going to earth-shattering changes for us. I'm blanking on the other two, but still monitoring a few through that group, and I'm not going to bring up the one thing that I said I was not going to bring up anymore. There'll be more votes on that acronym this summer.
August.
Since we got no bids on the Douglas property, have there been any more talk about what we might do with it?
So we're still waiting. The contractor still has some stuff that they've got to finish up there, and we're kind of waiting for some of that as far as the seating and all that stuff
Okay,
goes
that
down.
was, that's where I was going with this.
Yeah, they were waiting on that, and I think that's all weather dependent, correct if I'm wrong? Yeah, so they're supposed to get up and reseat it, so probably not going to have any use.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And where I was headed with this, I've had contact with some of the Little League officials, and their numbers on T-ball are 15 teams. I don't know, quote me on that, but I know it was kind of jaw-dropping how many kids they have playing now. And it'd be nice to put at least one, if not 2, practice fields up there. They think they can put 2 practice fields in.
I think the bigger problem right now is where to put them. Drainage up in the middle, and you can't play on the side because they'd be off it for this whole year for sure.
Well, and we had that discussion.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm looking down the road. I think that's a good move on our part. We're creating some more green space. We're not putting something in there that neighbors don't want, and it's paid for. It's not costing us anything right now. Is it?
Mowing and maintenance. Yeah.
would just like to thank the staff and city staff, mayor, and everybody really just for hanging in there through kind of a difficult time. That you know, we can come together and put a plan to take care of it in the interim, and also making sure that we get that void filled with a great quality person is in the future. Way past my time.
Anything? Got anything? I've been told I had a couple things tonight. Earth Month is coming up, and the plastic bags. Remember the plastic bags that we want to compete with the other neighboring communities? One on the other side over here, maybe won a bench here a couple years ago. So when does this start, Jenny?
April 1st.
April 1st. So bring your plastic bags to City Hall. Right? That's all. You're going to be just taking the collections here.
We'll take them
We're
here.
going to try and set a record this year.
That's right.
And they don't go in the green totes.
They do not.
No, they do not go in the green
No,
totes.
you can't recycle plastic.
Bring them in.
They do not go in the green totes.
It'd be nice if somebody with parks would win that park bench.
There you go. So tell your friends and neighbors, bring your plastic bags in. And then I was also asked to tell everybody that Wednesday there is the tornado drill, right? And so this is Severe Weather Awareness Week. So at 10:15 the storm sirens will sound, right? So short-lived, but at least everybody knows what's going on. And I know you guys have already taken care of letting school and nursing home and everybody know. So, yep. So 10:15 on Wednesday. And I think that's all I had.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, I should bet.
Aye.
There you go. Thank you.
Trace.
Yes.
I almost said it. You know what I'm talking
With what?
about. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking